Portion of this video is sponsored by BetterHelp. You used to look at Android phones, you can make a checklist of things that they had that the iPhone didn't. USB Type-C, better zoom, fast charging, high refresh screen, widgets. And now Apple's slowly been, very slowly, been checking off each of those boxes, culminating with what we have now with the iPhone 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max. And it seems that we're at the point now where really the only difference between the iPhone and Android flagships is finally just the operating system. Let's compare the iPhone 15 Pro Max versus one of the biggest Android flagships going right now, the Samsung S23 Ultra. Listen, I know these phones came out months apart. I wish they came out at the same time. We'll revisit this when the S24 Ultra ultimately hits the market. But as always, there will not be a cop-out. We will declare a winner. Now, it seems that Apple likes to, tease us a little bit when it comes to camera specs, especially when you compare what the iPhone had to other Android phones on the market, and particularly like those from Samsung. So Apple has had a solid main cameras for years, but the other cameras were very far behind. It took years to add ultra wide, and even though the telephoto's been around since the iPhone 7, the most that we ever had was 3 times. In contrast, Samsung's gone the opposite direction. They've been delivering phones with tons of cameras on the back, and their Ultra phone, starting with the S20 Ultra, had a 100 times space zoom. Granted, it looked like an oil painting, but it was there, assuming you weren't taking a picture of the moon, which looked beautiful. But whether that was actually useful, it's hard to say, but at least you had the option. And you had zoom levels up to 100, so you didn't have to go all the way up. Samsung's offered many different focal lengths, including 3 times and 10 times. But now the iPhone has bumped that to 5x, which is 120 millimeter equivalent, and Samsung's packing a 3 times and a 10 times optical zoom. But numbers don't mean everything. So this lends us to a blind test. So look at these pictures. Can you tell which one is which? Look for the hallmark things that you think you know. Look for contrast levels. Look how poppy and punchy colors are. Look how it handles greens. Look how it handles clouds. Can you tell which is which? And in case you were wondering, A is the S23 Ultra, B is the iPhone 15 Pro Max. And so while zoom is iPhone's newest camera feature, that doesn't mean it's sort of the end-all be-all here at all. For a lot of people, including myself, the main camera sensor is where you live and breathe, and sort of most of what we're gonna be using. Samsung is bringing just the absolute heat here with a 200 megapixel main camera. And Apple just recently upped their main camera from 12 to 48 megapixels, and that alone felt like a huge jump, but 200 is obviously another level. But can you actually see the difference? Or is this just marketing? One weird thing what these cameras do is turn off the highest resolution by default. So the 15 Pro Max shoots 24 megapixel photos out of the box. S23 Ultra shoots 12 megapixel photos out of the box. And when in the default mode, both these cameras really shoot great photos. And I spent a lot of time this year, more than any other year, using Samsung phones, particularly the S23 Ultra. And I really loved the camera quality on the S23 Ultra. I thought everything looked beautiful. Now, in all fairness, I'm not doing a lot of editing on the phone. I think when you need more data, I think what the iPhone is giving you gives you more ability to edit after the fact. But for pictures straight off the phone, I still just love what Samsung is doing. I can't quantify it, but I tend to sort of gravitate to what those pictures are. But that is ultimately gonna be a personal choice. Before I go on, I do wanna take a quick break and tell you about this video sponsor, BetterHelp. I know the versus side of the phone debates gets real heated. People get big feelings when it comes to what phone other people decide to choose. But in the grand scheme of life, that is a very small choice. And I've been pretty vocal in the past about dealing with kind of crippling anxiety that I have throughout the day. It's manifested in insomnia and really things that are small decisions or small things tend to weigh on me really, really heavily. Something I've struggled with really since I started Techno Buffalo, so having the responsibility of people relying on me for their livelihoods, something that is really scary. Being a single family income is also really scary. One of the ways that I've dealt with it, and one of the best ways to sort of deal with any anxiety or things that you have in your life, is talking to a professional. And a service like BetterHelp has made that process so easy, and most importantly, made it really affordable. So BetterHelp is firstly completely online, all remote, and takes all the worries of insurance out, And also it's incredibly affordable. You answer a few questions and in a few days you are matched with a therapist that perfectly suits your needs. And if that therapist doesn't work out for you, it's not a fit, there's no worries, no hard feelings. They can match you with somebody new. BetterHelp has taken sort of the stress and worry by talking to somebody professionally out and made it accessible to anybody. Sometimes it's hard to find a therapist where you live, maybe there's none available, or you can't find a good match. BetterHelp has taken every single pain point out of that process and made it really easy and simple to better yourself and sort of talk about things that are holding you back in your life. And if you want to give BetterHelp a shot, I think everybody needs somebody to talk to. Just go to betterhelp.com/Rettinger. You get 10% off your first month of therapy. All the links again will be down below. So now that the iPhone's got more zoom, it is much closer to what Samsung is offering. And while Samsung does have more zoom at 10 times, it's only 10 megapixel compared to the 12 megapixel of the iPhone, and the same goes for the S23 Ultra's 3 times camera. That was confusing. So you're making compromises really with both camera systems. What impressed me with the iPhone camera system is actually the digital zoom up to 25x. So my son's 10th birthday was this weekend. We took the whole family to Disneyland, and I had just gotten the 15 Pro Max. I took some camera samples. So you can see what it looks like from 0.5 to 1 to 5. I even to see what it looks like when I go all the way to 25. This sign is still very, very readable. I imagine a lot of you might not even known that it was a digital zoom here. I think what Apple is doing with that Max 25 is surprisingly usable. I wouldn't blow it up and print a big picture of it, but to capture something quick and look at it on your phone or social media, came away really impressed. With the main cameras, you get great results with either camera. Unless you're planning on blowing these images up to print, the resolution is really not that noticeable in all honesty. I think where Apple took a big step though in the camera is with video mode. Now it can record to anything external, which is really huge. And these are big moves. It made taking videos on your phone much more professional and now usable. And if you're trying to combine video clips from like a quote real camera and an iPhone, these new features come in incredibly handy. And we've actually used iPhones in shoots plenty of times before, but we couldn't shoot in ProRes because a few minutes would fill up a quarter of the phone. But now that we can record to external SSDs, we can use this even more in sort of professional settings. In times when it doesn't make sense to have our big studio cameras, having a run and gun device like the iPhone has been really easy, and now it's going to be, and you can see the quality, be even better. In all fairness, S23 Ultra takes some of the best videos on the Android side of things, but it's still not quite to the level video only that Apple is delivering. And there are some great features here too. You got 8K recording, but it still very much looks like a phone. Well, the iPhone is starting to push things to boundaries a little bit more. Camera aside, I think one of the biggest pain points of the iPhone has been USB Type-C, really just like not having it. This has been something that I think everybody's been clamoring for years, and quite honestly something I didn't think we were ever going to see. I thought we were gonna get a portless phone before Apple ever gave us USB Type-C. Thank the European Union, because now we've got it on these phones, and while it's not Thunderbolt speeds, we are getting USB 3.2 speeds, which enables being able to plug in really any USB Type-C accessory and it will work. Being able to carry one cable has made life a lot easier, I think, for a lot of people. Ultimately will make life easier for a lot of people. Being able to now have the same charger to charge both the iPhone and the S23 Ultra is just really nice. Ports aside, both of these phones are iterations of their previous versions. S22 Ultra looks very similar to the S23 Ultra. 15 Pro Max is very similar to the 14 Pro Max, but with the move to titanium, the iPhone has a noticeably different feel in the hand because of the weight. This is where I get very conflicted. As somebody who reviews phones, I want to see something new every year. I want a radically different design, but I guess it's not fair to expect that year over year. I think where you should see changes is skipping a generation. So on the iPhone side, iPhone 13 to iPhone 15, Galaxy S21 to Galaxy S23. And those phones still look very similar, but you do see changes. And I guess year to year, that's what the changes are all about. They're a little bit faster, cameras are slightly better optimized for battery life or performance. They're slow steps, and they ultimately lead to a bigger picture. These are also very, very powerful phones here. So the A15 Pro Max is rocking A17 Pro, which may have some heat issues that is still kind of yet to be seen. S23 Ultra has a very capable Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 that I became really impressed with the more I used it. Incredible for battery life, never had any stutter issues. Just that processor was an absolute screamer in everything that I threw at it. At this point, I've only been testing the 15 Pro Max for about 4 or 5 days. so I can't really comment too much on battery life yet. Certainly better than my 14 Pro Max, but the script on how it's gonna perform over 6 or 7 months is yet to be written, especially with some sort of thermal issues that might be going on. The rest of the specs I think that matter a lot is screen. So 15 Pro Max at 6.7 inches, it's got a 2796 by 1290 resolution, 2000 nit max brightness, it's got a 4400 mAh battery, and 27 watt charging, and of course it's got MagSafe built in. S23 Ultra, 6.8 inch screen with a 3088 by 1440 resolution, 1750 nit max brightness, 5000 mAh battery, 45 watt charging, and S Pen. And that 27 watt to 45 watt charging might not seem like a lot, but the more you use these phones, you notice that difference. I love when I plug in my S23 Ultra, not only would it tell me how long it would take to get to full, but that time was usually very small, even when the phone was empty. Using a 45 watt charger, it is very noticeable how much faster the S23 Ultra charges. On the flip side, we've got sort of fast charging for Apple with 27 watts, but it's got MagSafe. Makes me wish that Qi 2 was out and shipping on phones natively. That would be really nice to have. I didn't notice the brightness difference between the two phones, although the iPhone does get a little bit brighter. To my eye though, and I know Samsung makes the same screens, the Samsung's display just looks better to me. I can't quantify it, I don't know why, it just looks better. If I see these phones in a vacuum 100 out of 100 times, I will still pick the Samsung display. But it really just, and again, that part is personal preference. Both these phones are very similar. They've got always-on displays, biometric authentication. You could pick if you want the fingerprint reader or you want FaceID. And they've got giant batteries inside. And this is what is exciting about this video. I think for the first time with the iPhone flagship and one of the Android flagships, you're not sacrificing features going iPhone. Now it's just, which OS do you prefer? And I think that is absolutely awesome. That's when really we get full choice. I'm not talking foldables, I'm just talking slab phones. What Samsung is doing for a phone that's now, I guess at this point, over halfway through its life cycle, versus a flagship phone that just came out a mere days ago, it's really impressive how well Samsung phones have held up over that course of the half a year. I love having the S Pen option built into it. I love the fast charging. I love the display. The video in every situation looks good enough to me. If OS is what matters to you, you already know what choice you're gonna make. If OS doesn't matter to you that much, I think you're getting more with the S23 Ultra than you are with the 15 Pro Max. But I'm gonna wager you probably already know which one you wanna pick up.